Actually, I might.
Oh, Eric, you're connecting from two devices.
You're in double.
Hello, Rashima.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Perfect
Okay,
audio. Great. Yeah. Wow, good. I think all the panelists are here. We should be starting in a few minutes. Hello, Yuri. How are you?
Hello, I'm nice.
Hey.
It's okay.
Professor Bott, Victor here. So good to see you, and thanks for joining us.
Sir, I'm facing some network issues. Suddenly the Wi-Fi gone. I'm now joining through hotspot, mobile hotspot.
Oh, I see. Is that because of the rain, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay. Eric, again,
Hi, Yuri. Hi, Professor Yuri. Hi, Professor Charumati. Welcome. All the panelists have joined.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Tech is in the meeting. Yeah.
Dr. Rashima, welcome.
I'm here.
Yeah. So another 3 minutes to go. Hi, Professor Bhatt. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Pleasure to be. My first name is Bart and my family name is Norre. It's like Bart.
Honored to have you all. Dr. Victor, Professor Uma joined. He will join for the keynote, right?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, there is time, but we'll be starting with the panel. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm in 5 minutes ago. Only there seems to be a weak signal. I'll try to get my video on.
Oh, sure. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I've been here for 5 minutes. I've been hearing you all saying hi's.
Okay.
Just got the audio. I'll try to get my video on.
Sure.
Yes, sir. We can start. Yeah.
Hello, esteemed invitees, guests, students from Pondicherry University, from the University of East Paris, and quite a few other institutions. Welcome to the day 2 of our online conference on COVID-19, the business response and recovery towards a new normal. This is jointly organized by the Department of Management Studies, Pondicherry University, and Gustave Eiffel School of Management, the University of East Paris. And this is also a celebration of 2 years of fruitful partnership between our universities. Now, I have the delightful task of introducing the panelists, and then I hand over to our moderator to take us through the first event of the day, which is a panel discussion. On the panel, we have 4 very enterprising academicians who have also carved a niche for themselves in terms of research. First, let me present to you Professor Rashima Raja. Professor Rashima teaches at the National University of Singapore and is also an alumnus of NUS. She did her postdoc at Koblenz University of Applied Sciences in Germany. Internationalization is deeply embedded in her profile, having worked and taught in Singapore, the US, Canada, and Germany. Dr. Rashima was a practicing organizational psychologist at Pulsify in Singapore before she took up the assignment at NUS. Her research includes job connectedness, positive psychology, and emotionality in leadership. Welcome, Dr. Rashima. Next, I present to you Professor Yuri Dyachenko from Ukraine. Professor Yuri teaches at the prestigious National University of Kyiv Mohyla Academy in Ukraine, which is a 400-year-old university. He was earlier heading the Department of Management at Volodymyr Dal East Ukrainian National University. He is an alumnus of Sofia University in Bulgaria, and his area of research is in cognitive science and applying artificial intelligence technologies in tourism, education, and marketing. And currently he is working on development and implementation of cognitive science education programs. Welcome, Professor Yuri. Next, I present to you Professor Anouk Mukherjee. He teaches at the Institute for Research in Management of the University of East Paris, which is a research group. And he is an alumnus of the London School of Economics and Dauphine University. And currently, he leads a research group on collaborative spaces. Prior to joining the academia, he had a career in the IT industry. And Dr. Anouk's research lies in studying the relationship between the experience of organizational space and ICTs in emergent work practices. Welcome, Dr. Anouk. And next I present to you Dr. Narongsak Thongapapnel. He likes to be called as Dr. Tech. He teaches marketing and product innovation at Goodman School of Business, Brock University, Canada. He is currently the Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Programs, and he is an alumnus of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, New York. Dr. Tech is a highly decorated teacher and researcher in terms of international awards and recognitions from very reputed bodies. His research interests include new product development, technology and innovation management, and integration of marketing and technology competencies. Welcome, Dr. Tech. And now let me have the privilege of introducing the moderator for today's panel discussion, Professor Eric Hertzler. Professor Eric teaches at the IFO School of Management, University of East Paris, and he is a coordinator for this international online conference. He is the Vice Dean of International Relations at UPEC, and he is an alumnus of Panthéon-Assas University, France, and he was a visiting scholar at the University of California, Berkeley. Dr. Eric is a visiting professor in programs in economics and management in many universities around the world, and his fields of interest are markets of higher education, regional integration, and cross-cultural issues. We have a very elite panel, and I'm personally looking forward to a very interesting, very engaging, and very enlightening panel discussion. Eric, over to you. Eric, kindly unmute Eric. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for this presentation. It's really an honor for me to moderate this panel focused on the recovery towards a new normal. Yesterday, we were able to listen very thoughtful comments and a beautiful keynote presentation on how businesses address the crisis. So crises are catalysts for changes, for the best or for the worst. We could all cherish, like yesterday, Dr. Juma, the stakeholder capitalism, focused on the planet, on the people, on business ethics, corporate social responsibility. But we could also fear, like many, some kind of a cyberpunk dystopia anticipated by science fiction movies or literature. When we face an external crisis, we need a quicker rational diagnosis. We need to plan for now, for the future. And we need also to follow up, monitor, and hopefully learn something about it. Because one thing for sure is that there will be other crises following this crisis. So what are we learning from this crisis? 10 years ago, in France, a very famous public debater, Jacques Attali, was advocating a global pandemics to boost globalization and international cooperation. But this first fully global crisis since World War II, unlike the financial crisis 10 years ago, has been answered by many national responses with closed borders and little cooperation. Globalization that was defined by Steger in 2010 as an unprecedented period of compression of time and space boosted by technology show us that now this crisis is lived by many as a dilution of time and space, a bit like back in the 1980s. The strategy for the future should involve all stakeholders, whether we plan with COVID or post-COVID, all stakeholders. What post-COVID world will look like, let's hope the answer will be, like Lawrence Boone, the chief economist of the OECD, said in a report, in the Outlook report published by the OECD on the 1st of December, let's hope that the answer will be perhaps mostly the same, but a little bit better. I suggest we stay on the bright side, not, overthink about dystopia. If profit is needed, and indeed most policies try to sustain the supply side and innovation, we do hope that following this health and social crisis, we won't even have a financial crisis. So we're very lucky to have government trying to address the crisis and the resilience of small and medium businesses. But we have to keep in mind the planet, maybe a more circular economy, shortened supply chain, reduce carbon emission. And we have to think also about the people, and not only, from the big corporation perspective. And yesterday we had a very interesting panel, a member who talked about that issue. We will start then with Anouk. We will focus on collaboration and space in his research. Then Yuri will talk about the role technology has within this crisis. Dr. Tech, like he likes to be presented, will illustrate some innovation. We will contribute certainly to solve some problems, but we create new problems. And finally, Dr. Rash will address the impact on people and society from the Singaporean point of view. So thank you all, and the floor is yours, Yuri.
So will I start?
Anouk, please do so. Sorry. And then Yuri, and then Dr. Tech, and then Dr. Rash. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Victor. Thanks, everyone. First of all, let me express my gratitude and thanks for having me here on this panel, inviting me for this celebration of the relationship, this burgeoning relationship between UPEC and Pondicherry University. I'm very, very happy to be here. And just on a personal note, as you could probably see from my name, my surname, Pondicherry is a place I know, I've visited, and it's a place where my French and Bengali roots intersect quite strongly. So I'd be very happy to go back. So yes, as Eric and Victor, you were introducing a little bit of my background. What I'd like to do today is perhaps talk a little bit about, first of all, what my research focuses on, how it's related to the current crisis, the question that we ask ourselves about the future, and how businesses have adapted or will adapt, and how they will evolve after this crisis, once this crisis has passed. I'll also talk a little bit more specifically about the context here in France and about the work I do with the research group on collaborative spaces, the research group you mentioned, Victor, in your introduction. So let me start just with the research I conduct, or really actually what interests me the most are practices, specifically work practices, business practices with regards to organizing work in space and time. Of course, you can never separate the two, as Eric pointed out. But I'm very much focused on space. So what we've seen with this crisis, and this is something I think that was already has already been remarked on, is that this crisis has put into sharp relief or sharp focus developments, emerging practices that were already in development, but have now been accelerated with what we know we cannot do when we are in lockdown, and that is to see each other. And the whole point of these lockdowns is to really isolate individuals so that we don't propagate this virus. And this has, of course, accelerated a lot of the trends we saw before the crisis, where people were modifying perhaps some of their work practices, working remotely, working on the move. So not just working at home, but also perhaps working in collaborative spaces, third spaces. So we have this umbrella term that has been developed regarding any space which is not necessarily the home, the office, a workplace, but something in between. Okay, so these trends have already been in development. And so what we've seen is, since we've been forced into this kind of in a very broad scale, this situation where we must work with these new practices, we have to actually connect remotely and find ways of working remotely where we do not necessarily have all the facilities at our disposal. We don't have the experience, and I'm going to come back to this word experience because it's very important. Well, we've seen all the inconveniences. We've seen all the kind of coping mechanisms that have evolved and developed over the course of this crisis. So what I've observed, and of course, again, lockdown means we cannot go out in the field and really do make observations or see what's going on in organizations and companies. What we can really rely on is our own personal experience, but also what we have that is shared through our networks and through our work with colleagues and for example, what we're doing today, which is running this conference remotely, which for me is actually quite interesting because I feel like I'm traveling to all these different places, even though I'm not actually going anywhere. So what I was going to really maybe perhaps do with these or say today with these trends that have been sort of put into sharp focus is that we see that there are certain, especially I can say about the context here in France, there are certain resistances due to legitimate reasons, we can say. For example, individuals not having, for example, the right material, equipment. Most people don't have office space at home. That is, I'm obviously talking about people who work in offices regularly. But if they were to transpose their office space at home, that is not always possible. The environment is not always conducive to work. If you have children at home, or you share your home with other people, that is not always obvious. So these are obviously challenges, and because it was a crisis that was sort of thrust upon us, it was impossible really to prepare well in advance. However, what we've seen there are other kinds of trends where remote work has been, when it's been put in place, managers have been quite reluctant about this and feel a little bit uncomfortable because they don't really have, they can't really supervise, they don't have any kind of control. There's this whole notion of control that is present. So in the absence of that, a lot of managers, as soon as the lockdown is over, they demand that their employees come back to the office, to the workplace. And sometimes, very occasionally, you have these office employees who say, well, actually, you know what? How about we do half-half? How about we change the way we work? How about we change our work practices, modify them? Because actually, I don't mind working at home. I can be at home earlier because I don't have to take public transport. I feel like I can dedicate more time to my family, and I feel I'm more flexible in terms of my schedule. So these are kind of tensions that have sort of emerged. People who never worked remotely before have experienced it. Some of them have said, "No way, it's not for me." But many others are quite happy to pick it up and continue with it, at least in a very partial way. So we have this kind of resistance that has developed, and I think a lot of this has to do with our experience of work and work practices, and especially our experience of space. As again, I was saying, how managers have this experience of loss of control, and we have the employees as well, who perhaps, well, we've heard this very frequently, feel like they do not have this experience of conviviality, of serendipity that the workplace offers. Many people, for them, the workplace is an escape. So there are definitely questions there that need to be asked about what is it that's possible with technology, with not just technology, but work practices, the way we organize ourselves in space and time, the way we interact with each other, that would enhance this experience, make this experience much more pleasant, and somewhat replicates what we could do in a physical office space. And I think that links a little bit up with my co-panelists' work. I believe Raj, maybe, well, we'll wait for your intervention, but you will talk a little bit about well-being, and I think that is a theme that really comes up a lot. And I think when we talk about experience, I think well-being is something that is quite important. And Yuri, perhaps you may mention something about virtual reality and how maybe perhaps new technologies and innovations could help us overcome these challenges with this experience of space and interaction. So these are the kind of questions I think maybe we'll be able to discuss in the panel. I'll just finish with a little bit some observations about trends that have been, as I mentioned, already in place in motion before this crisis. Here in France, I know it's the same in India because I've actually done field work in India, in Delhi specifically, about co-working spaces. And so these new work practices based on these third spaces, co-working spaces, these new workspaces, I think are probably part of the solution, because it means that we have this alternate space, physical space, where we can combine this experience of virtuality with some form of conviviality, some form of social interaction in flesh and in the presence of other people. And what's interesting about these spaces is that you're not just mingling with your work colleagues that you usually would mingle with in this office environment, this traditional office environment, but you would be mingling with other people, other professions, other sectors, and perhaps there is something to be captured, and I think there's an opportunity here for innovating in not just work practices, but also in terms of fostering the practice of innovation in organizations. So, so those are the kind of questions I'd like to perhaps provide as a segue for the other panelists.
Well, Yuri, please.
Okay, dear students and colleagues, nice to see you, nice to hear you. And topic of my today report is digital and cognitive technologies for service sectors response and recovery after coronavirus pandemic. I'm professor of Kyiv-Mogil Academy, the oldest university in Ukraine. And our mission of our university is to spread knowledge, as in other universities, through the community from honest, caring, creative personalities who are able to think independently and act. Today, advances in understanding the workings of the brain and the mind are the sources of development of cognitive technologies and technologies of artificial intelligence. Work on the basis on these technologies is gradually beginning to replace traditional technologies, all technologies from now. And digital technologies don't just modify how we act with the world, they also affect how we understand the world, how we see ourselves, how we interact with each other. We are slowly accepting the idea that we are not in the center of growing infosphere that surround us, because we are not only smart agents that are able to carry out complex tasks. We could make some intelligent, we could make some cognitive agents artificially. In the another side, in economics, the values of goods, services is progressively dependent on cognitive capital. We define cognitive capital as an assessment of factors that can influence senses, meanings, values, preferences, and as a result, utilities of consumers. These assets can play an important role in the recovery after COVID pandemic and enable to the creation of new value chains. And in the frames of coronavirus pandemic, quarantine restrictions, both propositions and demands for services and its nature of these propositions are changing. Current condition of restrictions, pandemic restrictions, have the following characteristics and consequences, particularly in the sphere of tourism. Firstly, we have a ban of external mobility and serious decreases in internal mobility. And that led to orienting the tourism sector to local tourism or even online virtual tourism. A rapid expansion of distant work, widespread improvements in relevant online services make customers ready for online experiences and following mental transformations of customers. And we are waiting for innovations to be shared broadly. And whoever does the first will be king of mountain for the tourist market. And to make the new possibilities for tourism business during the coronavirus pandemic. In Ukraine, we start to use some digital technologies as new ways to deliver customer experiences through, for example, original virtual tours from initiative Quarantine Trips. To make travel virtual reality box My Lugansk region, make 3D tour My Starbelsk region and other initiatives. On the following stage, after pandemic restrictions, our audience will rebuild following the reduction of coronavirus pandemic restrictions. And this will back to life stage. And people are reestablishing old routines while likely making more conscious brand decisions. And economic health concerns may replace personal health worries. But even after end of pandemic restriction, new ways for delivering of services will remain with us, particularly virtual reality initiatives, augmented reality and other kind of cognitive and virtual reality technologies. Deutsche Bank's long-term asset return study 2020 predicts an age of disorder with likely loosening of globalization in next years. Recognizing the need to adjust to a dramatically changing world, we emphasize the sustainability of decentralizing and network-like systems. And last year, we see the shift of business model from services to experiences and even to customers' transformations that turn aspirants into a new you, with new ethical, philosophical implications. And this shift also applies to university. And I suppose to meet these expectations, universities have to assume the management of consumers' behavior through cognitive transformations as a changing of human worldview. So, thank you. It's
Thank you so much, Yuri, for your presentation. I'd like to hear now Dr. Tek on the matter.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having us. And of course, I would like to thank Pondicherry University and Eiffel School of Management for hosting this conference here today and putting together this great panel. To complement the two colleagues that talk about the changes and the new normal that we have to work with, I would like to focus more on the product innovation and innovation strategy going forward. let's look at things first, right? There are so many studies right now that look at what people would behave in the new normal. But we know now what they are behaving in this current crisis. So if we're looking at the latest study that seemed to be large scale, 12 to 15,000 across multiple countries, I believe they did over 12 countries. We have found certain things to be the norm or the normal. We're looking at close to 90% of the people responding to the survey indicating that they want the company to basically create the product and develop new products so that the problem and their challenges related to COVID-19 could be subdued. We're also looking at 90% of the respondents also mentioning that they want company to actually do something about it in terms of be socially responsible, be more sustainable, be more involvement with the current crisis in helping out, healthcare worker or the people. So it's not just about commerce or economic as usual. Last but not least, I think this is also important because right now people are so focused about COVID-19, they cannot think above and beyond that. And they're looking at about 55% of the people out of this 15,000 population saying that they want product creation and the product development during this period to be concentrated mainly on problem that they have right now. And that's very understandable, right? When people confronted with problem and issue, they like to solve their problem and issue that they have immediately rather than looking into the future. And that leads me to the second point that I'm trying to also communicate here. When it comes to new product development, oftentimes, even before COVID-19, we talk about solving customer problem, try to find solution for users. And this is no different, even though we're talking about new normal in COVID-19. And I believe after COVID-19, we're going to continue to try to solve customer problem, but we're going to try to solve them differently. And I would like to add that in the current COVID-19, as you know, product can be broken down into so many attributes. We're looking at quality, we're looking at convenience, we're looking at performance, we're looking at ease of usage, we're looking at ease of maintenance. But right now, interestingly, during COVID-19, because of the 2 or 3 points that I mentioned to you before, people and customers are more willing to pay for products that are developed, that are heightened in terms of safety value, products that are developed that are heightened in terms of providing certainty to customer, products that are developed in terms of providing flexibility. Right? Don't get me wrong, safety, certainty, and flexibility is always there. But before COVID-19, people are willing to pay less for it, and people sometimes may go after certain other attributes such as aesthetic, such as low energy consumption, and they put safety, certainty, and flexibility maybe on the back burner. But during COVID-19, now they're willing to pay more, and those become more prominent in terms of attributes that they look at. And in this, I would like to also mention some example, if I may share the screen. I mean, I'm not preparing a PowerPoint presentation, but I just want to connect the dot for all the student audience, right? Because I was told that we have a lot of students in the audience in terms of what they are willing to pay for when it comes to safety, when it comes to flexibility, when it comes to certainty. There are many products right now. We have UV sanitization system, devices, but a wand that you scan through material and you're supposed to sanitize the material, the surface, the phone, the devices. We also have robots that are being used more to replace humans so that we don't have to have people be in contact with a patient of COVID-19. We also have a QR code, being used widely and broadly because people no longer want to touch the same document that other people have seen. We also have in the IT sector, as Yuri and others have mentioned both today and yesterday, looking at using the technology to trying to circumvent this issue and the problem that customers have now in terms of social distancing. But not all products need to be high tech. So I'm going to show some example of the product. If I may share the screen quickly. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes, Tech.
So this is not a new product, right? HelloFresh, right? You buying a home cooked meal and you place order online, they ship everything to you, right? Raw ingredient instruction, right? They may be getting fancier by, using a video and all kind of things to try to connect with the customer. And of course, if you're looking at the before COVID-19, right, we're focusing on, of course, reducing carbon footprint, so they're very environmentally friendly. We're looking at also trying to make sure that we use fresh, seasonal, local ingredient, farm to table type concept. We're also looking at convenient. Convenient used to be a big thing before COVID-19, but now, guess what? There's a trade-off between safety, flexibility, certainty, and convenience. We're willing to sacrifice some convenient aspect of the product in order for us to ensure that safety, flexibility, and certainty become more at the front rather than being at the back. Okay? And I want to also give the example of the Canadian company in the same industry. Home cooked meal, you order a box of meal, you get 1 box every week, 1 box every days, or 5 boxes every week, whatever is your pleasure in terms of bringing this to your home. Right? So we also have Canadian companies such as Good Food doing the same thing. But what we are in now is in COVID-19. Many of these companies have not yet realized that their product is actually also good in terms of providing increasing safety, because with people not being able to go out to eat, right? With people try not to go out to shop for grocery, this type of product not only combine the convenience, safety, right, certainty, and flexibility, which is as opposed to trying to work and have the two forces being contradictory to one another. And working with a company locally, a student in my new product development class, and in fact I show this also to a student in France that I taught over the last 2 weeks. This is actually a local restaurant that actually very renowned. In 2020, the restaurant was ranked by Air Canada as the top 10 best restaurant in the country. The problem is when the COVID-19 hit them, they can no longer serve their patrons. People can no longer come to their restaurant, so there's a lost revenue. But not only from the company side, focusing on the supply side, right? Company can no longer generate revenue, but we also focusing on the demand side. Customer who want to go to the restaurant and experience all of this food, all of this ambience, all of this, local cuisine, we no longer have that experience. So what the student in my new product development class were able to work with them is, we actually create a product that they have labeled as dispatch at home, right? Where they create a meal, partly cooked, but you complete it at home. And the interesting part about it is, as opposed to the 2 previous examples, the HelloFresh and the Good Food, where the selling point is having the product at home, having it being convenient, and maybe right now in the COVID-19 period, it also allows you to get safety. Right? But dispatch basically create the experience that you would have when you go to the restaurant. And as you know, in this current situation, and I'm going to stop the presentation now. As you know, in the current environment that we are in now, there's a, exploration and exploitation of the usage of the digital and the physical space. And we are human. Human also want to be connected. Human always want to be with each other. We are social animal. So whatever we can do to try to maintain that connectivity and that experience, I think it would go a long way during this time period and beyond. And my concluding remark would be, if we were to look above and beyond COVID-19, right? Because product innovation and new product development is not just for COVID-19 period. If we were to look beyond that, what are we dealing with now? We're dealing with customer and user now have learned something that they have not learned before. Previously, they were afraid to go online and do e-commerce and mobile commerce because of the perceived risk and perceived uncertainty, and also the worry that somebody gonna steal their privacy and somebody gonna steal their personal information. So there's a data security and data risk issue. But now that many people, and in fact, I would say most people are forced to adopt mobile commerce and m-commerce in a period of 6 to 8 months, those safety concerns, those security concerns, those privacy concerns become secondary. So if you go forward, what will happen afterward? I think customer will come back. They want personal touch, they want experience, they want relationship. And I'm not sure about you guys in the audience. Relationship is often very difficult to build if you were to do it virtually and digitally, right? So there's gonna be an increase and heightened digital involvement in our life, but physical contact and relationship will not go away as long as you deal with human. For firm and company, and for all of those of you in the audience looking at startup business and entrepreneurial opportunity and ideas, you should keep this at the back of your mind on what can you do to trying to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dec. It was very, very interesting to see your examples from Canada. So now I will let the floor to Dr. Rash, who's coming from a place that is seen by many as an utopian place, like the best place to live in, but also by many others as a terrible dystopia, full of control on the citizens. So please, Dr. Rash.
Very, very accurate description. Thank you, first of all, to Dr. Eric for moderating this panel, and Victor, for the invitation. And not only thanking the organizers, but of course the participants. Thank you for taking time to attend this forum. It's my pleasure to be here. I do feel very honored to be the last speaker, because part of my speech or little talk actually integrates all the different points from the 3 speakers. So, Dr. Anoop talked about interactions at the workplace and tensions between managers and employees. Dr. Yuri talked about the importance of technology, and Dr. Tech talked about how product innovations like the QR code and data security issues are now part of our day-to-day. So I'm going to kind of compress all that, and I will add like a Singaporean taste to it. So yeah, let's get started. I would like to start this with giving you some statistics on mental health among employees. So in April, there was a study conducted by Qualtrics, and they found that employees in Singapore experienced a decline in mental health. 26% of them actually reported a decline in mental health. Now, April was early enough in the pandemic so that we were still very, uncertain, but also late enough into the pandemic for us to know this is going to be a very long ride. So tensions were high, people were very stressed and anxious. So some of the drivers of mental health, 25% said it is due to stress, 22% said it is due to anxiety, 19% said it is due to job insecurity. Many people were afraid of losing their jobs. 7% fatigue, 6% due to working from home. The flexibility is good, but maybe working with our family members around may not be the best situation in all cases. And 21% said, they have other concerns. So 65% said they're feeling more anxious in the current environment. 64% said they are more stressed. Now, why is this the case? Research on virtual teams has been around for 20 years. There are virtual teams where you have 100% different locations. You are physically separated geographically, right? Because there are many advantages to this, like time differences. You use synchronous or asynchronous technology to communicate. So, for example, when the US sleeps, India is awake. And when India sleeps, the US is awake. So you have a business that runs practically 24 hours a day. So there are such things as virtual teams. So why is this so difficult for us now that we have to work from home? So actually, the reality is up till last year, only 5% of the work
you would expect them to be less depending on this group, as they are more engaged towards the individual. And here is the result. Now, what you see on the right side are the data we collected with reaction time testing. The green one is when people say yes, and the red is when people say no. And the solid color identifies high conviction. So if I take for Sweden, 37% is highly convinced that they are worried about being able not seeing their family. Whereas 54% said they were, but not all of them seemed, only 37% of them seemed to really convinced. And 25% said no, very convinced. Whereas 38% said no as a total group. But in fact, 13% was not really convinced. They could answer yes or no. There was no real think about the pathway in the mountains. This is what we get. So if I take the IDV orientation, then we have Sweden as a very strong individualist and also Switzerland. And it's not because I'm Swiss, but Swiss is the best in class here. If we take an IDV of 68, you would expect that Switzerland would have a lower conviction when it comes to I am worried not being able to meet my family. But Sweden, who is even a higher IDV, shows to be much more concerned about meeting the family. And Lebanon, which has a clear collectivist IDV with 40, has even the lowest engagement in getting worried to see the family. Spain is a bit in between with 50, but comes up with the highest collectivist attitude, if you like. So I'm starting to get a little bit puzzled. I mean, Hofstede should help me to understand, to some extent even predict behavior, but it doesn't work here. And it doesn't work neither when it comes to I'm anxious not being able to meet friends. Here, the most individualist are the most interested in getting contact with the group. And the more individualist attitude comes from countries that have more a tendency to collectivism. So strange things are happening here. So maybe maybe I did not take the right question, or maybe I'm not interpreting right. Everything is possible. But as far as I can see until now, and what I discussed with my colleagues, this is what we came up with. So let's look into another dimension, the time dimension. Long-term orientation. Am I living in a culture that is able and that thinks it's normal to think in long-term views of things we are doing? Or on the contrary, when I have a low LTO, I'm in a country that, it's what we have in front of us. It's about instant things. It's about what is now here. That's my view. That's my perspective on the things. So here I chose questions. I'm worried about my job. Switzerland, once again, I did not cheat with the data. These are the data you can find in the international. By the way, if you're interested in the complete report, go to neurom.com and you will find this report on their homepage, and you can read all the data if you're interested in more to know more about what we have been doing there. So here, Switzerland has a long-term vision on things. which means that, okay, we are in Corona, but let's not look too much on what is happening now. Let's go a little bit further. And we have the short-term, very clear short-term orientation in Lebanon, and effectively they are the most worried because it's happening now. Come on. But then if that would be a benchmark set, then Spain is not really very logic. Neither the position of Sweden. So again here, I have difficulty to say that Hofstede is really helping me to understand these differences. But again, maybe we've not done the right interpretation. Everything is open for discussion, as always. But as far as we can see, as far as we can interpret this data and use these models, we are coming into this questioning. So it was interesting because, I mean, I started with doing this analysis thinking, now this is a good idea. Let's see how these models will help me to understand. And the more I get into it, the more I see red and not green arrows. And it's the same with the question on worrying on my financial situation. Now you could say Switzerland, that's a clear case. If Switzerland starts worrying about the financial situation, the whole world should start worrying about financial situations. But again, also here, we cannot use the data we get from Hofstede as a model to interpret the differences we got into this dimension. Let's take another one. The uncertainty avoidance index is another dimension in Hofstede. I'm running out of time. So maybe I take this one and then I go to my conclusions because it's always, I'm repeating myself. The uncertainty avoidance index is in a country or in a culture or in a group. Do they live with uncertainty as something natural? Or is uncertainty something that needs to be destroyed because it's really something I don't want to get involved with that? Thinking about coronavirus, this is an interesting perception. How do cultures cope with the uncertainty of the virus? And certainly, if we would go into the data today, if we would do any research today, and by the way, I've done some research in Switzerland on COVID and the use of public transport. We'll be a lot into this. There's a lot of issues around this, but that's another story. So uncertainty orientation. Again here, those who want to avoid it, Spain very strongly wants to avoid it, has a strong tendency to say that they are worried about the job. They don't want this uncertainty. That's not natural. But then it's very difficult to explain the position of Switzerland, which with 19 should not be there. If you look at the other figures and the other countries. So again, there is maybe one here that could be explained with the uncertainty avoidance index of Hofstede, and the other ones we stay puzzled. So let me jump to the conclusions as time is going on. What is for sure is that with our reaction time testing, we were able to measure convictions and attitudes towards values related to the COVID-19. So we had not just yes or no opinions, we had really convictions, we measured convictions. And yes, we are in front of clear differences in attitude and behavior. So even when it's the same virus, when they get the same type of information, the same measures to protect yourself, and then of course there is some differences in how government will apply measures and try to provoke new behavior. Now, that's fine. Until there, it's fine. It's interesting, but it's also puzzling, of course, because why do we find these differences? So, as we know that culture is a very important factor and a very important concept to understand how people create meaning, we thought, well, if we go to these models, we might, not only we might, I must be honest and say, I thought I will find a concept that allows me to explain this. But I have to come back from it, and I have to accept that, no, in this case, it didn't work. It will be interesting to continue to apply it and see it, or we have some other points, of course. Maybe we just exaggerated this cultural thing, and maybe there are other factors that are more important. That's absolutely possible. Maybe it's the government policy that made it, or maybe it's social media and fake news that, by the way, operate borderless. And you can also say, is this concept of national cultures still something valid? Isn't that something from the 80s, from an analog world, where communication was also much more linear and not just confusing and going all types of directions like it's going now? So we have to ask ourselves, is this Hofstede dimensions model, or the Kluckhohn and Strothbeck, or the Trompenaars, is that still a valuable concept? Or should we think of something else? Or isn't that the case that these models are based on explicit and declarative data? And what would Hofstede and all these other concepts look like if we would start using implicit measures, real convictions, not declarative convictions, but measured convictions? And what would these data say? Would we still be in the same concept and idea? I think it's a very exciting, and not only exciting, I think it's a necessary idea. We have to go now in this new paradigm. We cannot just stay in the old one. There is enough evidence, neuroscientific evidence, that tells us that this is the way to go if you want to get closer to something real. And finally, and this is something we are working very heavily on this, there are other models in sociology that are very new, such as social network theories. And I'm not talking about Facebook or whatever. Social network, it's not social network theories. In Facebook, of course, you can have social networks, but your social networks are just larger than a software application or a platform. And we are working on that because it's very, very exciting to have real convictions, real values, and connect that with these theories. And this is what we are actually, one of our researchers we are doing with my dream team is looking into that. And hopefully we will have our article ready soon, and it will be published, hopefully. You know, those who do publications, you know that this is always, not always an easy thing. But we go for this, and we are convinced that we can get into that because we have really very solid data. And as I said, we are working with 7 scientific from different orientations, from different cultures on these data. And this is so amazingly exciting and interesting to be connected with all these people and get their inputs. And I think also that's one of these things we saw today. I hope that this type of conferences will continue, because this exchange between all these different views, it's so enriching. So it's really necessary. So I'm done with my presentation. I'm sorry, I went for a Swiss, I went a couple of minutes over time. So my sincere apologies to you. Thank you very much for your attention. If you are interested in learning more, following more, what we are doing, I'm not publishing every day, but on a regular basis on LinkedIn. And of course, if we will get our publications done, it will be published also on my LinkedIn page. So if you're interested, please connect to me to LinkedIn. If you have any questions about the sources or books or things I talked about that you would like to learn more, I would be really very happy to provide you with that information. So again, thank you very much, and namaste to my friends in India, and bonsoir à mes amis en France. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Bart Noor. And to tell the audience, Bart can lecture comfortably in German, French, and English. So
and Dutch and Swiss German.
Okay. Right. So thank you very much, Bart, for this very insightful research that you have. It's still ongoing, and you were generous enough to share it. I guess this will give a lot of ideas to researchers. I hope some research scholars are also online. Now, this is the crucial question of consumer behavior. What people want to do, what they say they will do, and what they actually end up doing. There's always this gap, what is called the intention gap, the behavioral intention gap. So the only good answers that can come for this behavioral intention gap is from qualitative research. So neuroscience and neuromarketing is a bold move into qualitative research. I hope more PhD examiners start accepting qualitative research thesis, because a lot of them are very sold on the statistical models. And I hope qualitative research picks up a lot more, with a lot more PhD examiners that will give the guts for our scholars to take up these kind of methodologies. And we'll definitely look forward to any interested person can connect with Professor Bart Noor on LinkedIn. He's a very accessible person. In fact, I've been in touch. I've been learning a lot of new things from him every conversation. And he's so passionate about neuromarketing that you will come out also equally passionate and equally infected with his enthusiasm. Thank you so much for this, this gesture of sharing a research that is still ongoing. Nobody would do it because it is still risky. You haven't yet published it. So thank you very much for this very different kind of an approach and a different kind of an insight into the response, the consumer response to COVID-19, and a cross-cultural dimension to the consumer response, and why, despite all the warnings, we are not washing our hands, or we are not, following social distancing, and we are flouting the rules of wearing the mask and ending up paying fines. So maybe this can explain a lot of things like that across countries. In India, it is happy. Everybody is very happy. No mask, no social distancing. It's quite common, and the police release statistics every day on the fines that they have collected because of the behavior of consumers. Thank you very much, Bart. And thank you, Victor and Eric, the coordinators of this conference, for giving me this opportunity to host this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a real pleasure. And I hope exchange will continue, of course.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think our director also joined. Our dean is also available. We can right now start our valedictory function.
Thank you, ma'am. So, Bart, may I request you to stop sharing your screen, please?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We now move on to the valediction of this two-day online conference. Over to Surya.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the valedictory session of the Day 2 of International Online Conference on COVID-19 Business Response and Recovery Towards a New Normal, jointly organized by Department of Management Studies, Pondicherry University and Eiffel School of Management, University of East Paris, France. My name is Surya and I'm doing my MBA in Department of Management Studies, Pondicherry University. I'll be taking you through this valedictory session. To begin with, we would like to screen a video that celebrates the 2 years of partnership between PU and UPEC.
Just give us a couple of seconds. I'm sure the video is coming up. The students had produced this video as a celebratory video of our 2-year MOU with the University of East Paris.
Journey at UPEC started with the inaugural week where we came across we were given opportunities to know more about the amenities at UPEC and about the job market in France, and we are also given a glimpse about the French culture where we are going to stay for a few months.
Started with UPEC welcome days for the exchange students to familiarize about all the amenities in the campus such as library, medical facilities, job opportunities in Paris, finding an accommodation, various sports clubs, fun activities in and around the campus.
I had no idea what to expect when I went to Paris. I thought I would be lost in a new environment, but the student council at UPEC were really helpful. They had organized so many social gatherings for the international students. They had organized parties, outdoor activities. I got to know so many other students. It made me feel comfortable with the surroundings. I really enjoyed those times together. If I were to describe my experience at UPEC in a few words, I would say it was immensely exciting and rewarding.
Now, I would like to invite Professor Charumadi, Head Department of Management Studies, to give a welcome address.
Thank you, Surya. The most respected Director of Studies, Pondicherry University, Professor S. Balakrishnan, respected Dean, School of Management, Professor K. Chandrasekhar Rao, respected Director, Hefel School of Management, University of East Paris, Professor Christophe Torche, respected Vice Dean, International Relations, Dr. Eric from University of East Paris, delegates from Pondicherry University and University of East Paris and other universities, esteemed faculty colleagues, research scholars, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and good afternoon, because there are different zones, people from different zones and countries are with us, so I'm saying both. On behalf of the Department of Management Studies, I, Dr. Charumati, Head of the Department of Management Studies, extend a very warm welcome to everyone to the valedictory session of Even Full 2-day online international conference on COVID-19, Business Response and Recovery Towards a New Normal, jointly organized by the Department of Management Studies, Pondicherry University, and Hefel School of Management, Faculty of Economics and Management, University of East Paris, France. This event marks the successful 2 years partnership between Pondicherry University and University of East Paris, and I think we can identify many more areas of mutual benefits and shape future partnership. We are now exploring such partnerships, followed by the new education policy initiated by Government of India, which gives us much more liberty in terms of internationalization. We had resource persons from different countries and B schools and universities. Yesterday, that is day one, Dr. Norma Juma, School of Business, Washburn University, USA, delivered a thought-provoking keynote speech stressing on the importance of sustainability aspects such as environmental, social, and governance aspects to achieve the best and the balanced results in terms of people, planet, and profit. The panel on COVID-19 Business Response for a New Normal, with a distinguished panelist, Dr. Kim from Canada, Dr. Lakmika Pereira from Australia, Dr. Sylvie from France, and Dr. Rubina from Mauritius, explored various response measures and how the businesses have been developing the resilience during the pandemic and suggested various possible measures to be adopted. And today, Dr. Bart Noor from Switzerland delivered keynote speech on a very emerging area called neuromarketing, cultural and values related to the COVID and its impact. Today, we also had a panel on COVID-19 business recovery towards a new normal with a distinguished panelist, Dr. Rashima from Singapore, Dr. Tek from Canada, Dr. Yuri from Ukraine, and Dr. Anoop Mukherjee from France. They explored various recovery options and suggested various ways businesses can endure this pandemic and plan for a better recovery towards a new normal. With these words, I feel we should now focus our research on business response and recovery. As Professor Bart clearly said, maybe we can organize another conference wherein we all can present research papers on new concepts, new business models that emerged out of this pandemic. With these words, I welcome Professor S. Balakrishnan, Director of Studies of Pondicherry University. Professor Balakrishnan is a world-renowned scientist in the field of earth science, and he is known for his innovative ideas, and he implemented various innovative systems for online academic and research management in the Pondicherry University. We had a students' academic management system, research scholars academic management system, which ensured academic continuity during this pandemic. He is also the IQAC head for assuring quality of teaching and research in our university. And he is the senior most professor in our university, and he always extends the required support for all academic activities to the best of his possible manner. I welcome you, Professor. Next, I welcome Professor K. Chandrasekhar Rao, sir, Dean School of Management, also the conference chair, whom you all already know. And Professor has been giving an innovative and visionary leadership to take our School of Management to a newer heights. I welcome you, Professor. Next, I welcome Professor Christophe Torse, Director, Eiffel School of Management, University of East Paris, who offered all the support to our MOU partnership, and our students were under his safe hands during their semester at UPEC. I welcome you, Professor Christophe Torse. I next welcome Dr. Eric Vice Dean, International Relations, Faculty of Economics and Management, University of East Paris, and also the conference coordinator. Professor Eric has been in constant communication with Dr. Victor from our side, who is the conference coordinator, and he was facilitating a whole lot of organizing stuff for this conference, besides his pleasant duty of taking care of international relations. I hope this two-day discussions and deliberations helped the participants to understand different aspects of business responses and recovery by different sectors of the economy, and make use of the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 as an opportunity to re-strategize and reinvent ourselves. These initiatives will be richly rewarding in terms of opening up much broader opportunities for long-term value creation for all the stakeholders. Closing with the words of Peter Drucker, the greatest danger in turbulence is not turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic. With these words, I welcome every one of you for this validity session of this two-day international conference. Thank you for the opportunity. Over to Surya.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to call upon Deepak Mala, Doctoral Research Scholar, Department of Management Study, to give the conference report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to be the conference rapporteur and present my report on the proceedings. The conference was inaugurated by Professor Jean-Luc Dubois-Hand, the President of the University of East Paris, France, in the presence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh. Both of them complimented the timeliness and relevance of the online conference, besides offering to strengthen the EU-UPEC partnership further in the years to come. The conference had close to 300 registrations, including 80 international participants. Since Google Meet supports only 250 participants, the conference was live streamed on YouTube on both days. We had 2 enlightening keynote speeches and 2 lively panel discussions in this online conference. The first keynote speaker, Professor Norma Juma from Washburn University, USA, presented a strong case for stakeholder capitalism as an alternative to shareholder capitalism, which she argued is broken. She briefly highlighted the impact of COVID on the global economy and its disruptive effect to the workplace and on the workforce. She then proceeded to focus on human capital as integral to stakeholder capitalism. In the following panel discussion, we had Professor Uma Chandrasekharan from Pondicherry University as a moderator, and Professor Rubina Juahir from University of Mauritius, Professor Lakmika Pereira from Deakin University, Australia, Professor Sylvie Chevier from Gustave Eiffel University, France, and Professor Daniel Kim from the King University, Canada. The panel deliberated on how the businesses have responded to the disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic. The panelists shared their views on how MSMEs, retailers, and educational institutions responded to the crisis. They also discussed about the role of technology and digital transformation in coping up with an environment that is VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The second keynote speaker, Professor Bart Norre from Fribourg University of Applied Sciences, Switzerland, presented a cross-cultural assessment of social marketing related to COVID-19 pandemic. He discussed the findings from his research based on neuroscience technology. He presented an argument if cross-cultural models help to understand the differences in beliefs, attitudes, and behavior. In the second panel discussion, we had Professor Eric Hertzler from University of East Paris as the moderator, and Professor Rashima Raja from National University of Singapore, Professor Yuri Dyachenko from the National University of Kiev, Ukraine, Professor Anok Mukherjee from the University of East Paris, France, and Dr. Tech from Brock University, Canada. The panel deliberated on the recovery strategies of businesses and economies from the disruption caused by COVID-19. The panelists shared their views on interactions in the workplace, digital intelligence, responsive product innovation and strategies, privacy security trade-off, and mental health among employees post-COVID. And that is the report of today, this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lipokmala. Now I would like to call upon Professor K. Chandrasekhar Rao, Dean, School of Management, to give the felicitation speech.
Thank you. As the Dean of the School of Management, I am very much delighted over the last 2 years. I have got the opportunity of listening to a galaxy of experts cross-country, cross-continent, from USA to Australia, from Switzerland to, if you look at Canada, it shows the wide varieties of thoughts on this post-COVID recovery strategies, especially for a business school. Very happy. I have to congratulate the two coordinators, our Pondicherry University coordinator, Victor Anand Kumar, and the coordinator from the other side, East Paris University, Eric, for having identified good speakers all through. And it is a very big delight for every participant because they have the opportunity of listening to somebody from Switzerland, somebody from Canada, somebody from Australia, somebody from Singapore, and this is a very rare chance. I think I have to thank the technology which has been helping all of us to join like this. And this conference has now put forth lots of food for thought. Maybe the strategies what we have been listening to all these experts indicate, there are lots of new ideas. I think the new normal which is emerging out to be is altogether different from what we have been seeing all along. Maybe new innovations are likely to be, new business models are likely to be, the social element or the psychology or the human factor is getting into the whole logic of developing the business. Business is no more profit making. That is the big message that is said. Now the business is towards the social responsibility, society protection, and the human race. When I'm listening to the last but one speaker, wherein we are all along worried much about this data security, and we are more worried about our cyber crimes and all that. Today, we are all not at all bothered about, because we have to get the things with the technology, we have to go about. So the technology is going to play the big role on the business, and the business is going to be redefined. That is the message I am getting it. All our students, the MBS students, are getting it from out of this conference. Lots of research scholars have got lots of new thoughts and new ideas for carrying out the research. When I'm listening to the ongoing research and the findings of it, it's a very rare chance to get to know from the Bhatt who is from Switzerland, who has given almost the results which are coming out, which are likely to be published. That is a very rare opportunity for our research scholars to get to know more about it, and then they take up our own topics. So thank you very much for both the leaders of the universities, Pondicherry University and South Paris University. Yesterday, they have inaugurated the leadership of our Vice Chancellor and the President of the East Paris University and the Director of the Eiffel School. And today he has been all along with us. And the Eric, who has been coordinating the international relations, and the Dean of our International Relations, Pondicherry University, Dr. Uma, who has been made this truly, very, very truly, I have to say 3-4 times, very, very truly, the international conference for the first time maybe in our campus with so many experts all over the world. So thank you very much, and I have all appreciations for this Department of Management Studies, the flagship department of my school, who has taken a lot of strides and a lot of visibility has been brought to our School of Management. Thank you, all those who are associated with this program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is my honor to introduce Dr. K. Balakrishnan, a professor in Department of Earth Science, Pondicherry University since 1997, and currently the Director of Studies, Educational Innovation and Rural Reconstruction. Professor Balakrishnan began his academic life in Madras University, where he secured his bachelor's and master's degree in the field of geology in 1980. Then he went on to obtain his MPhil and PhD from JNU Delhi, specializing in geochemistry. He has taught in many premium institutions around the world, including IIT Roorkee and the State University of New York, USA. As a highly acclaimed academician and scientist, he was conferred the Khosla Reward Award by the University of Roorkee. As an able administrator and educational innovator, he introduced the highly popular integrated courses and several quality initiatives through the Internal Quality Assurance Cell. I now welcome you, sir, to deliver the presidential address on this occasion.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. The audio is not coming through. Can you kindly...
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then maybe the audio with my laptop is not working well. Okay, thank you for the kind words of Surya and our respected Dean of the School of Management, and also my friend Professor Chandrasekhar Rao, and Head of the Department Professor Charumati, and other professors of the School of Management who are there, and also the international, very learned and expert international professors and academic people who are there, research scholars, students. Very good evening to all of you. And it is indeed, I am honored to be amongst you during this valedictory function. And this COVID-19 has provided a lot of opportunities for us to interact on various aspects. There were several webinars, many webinars, conferences were held on different aspects, scientific, some of them on social, economic, political, etc. But this one is unique because here we are organizing the conference with our friends at along with the collaboration with the University of East Paris, with whom we are having a deep relationship of exchange of students. Our students are there, and sometimes their students also come here. And as you say, this collaboration has been very active for last 2 years. So I hope this continues, and also we have more such academic interactions. As also pointed out, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh, is very eager to have foreign not only students but also and also the professors from abroad, particularly from France, stay with us and have some teaching and other research may be carried out here. So I hope this new education policy of 2020 also emphasizes this aspect, internationalization of the education. If we want to maintain quality, then we should have the education has to be internationalized. So yesterday, for example, I was looking at that BBC, and there was a news that one of the Indian teacher, government school teacher, got the best teacher award globally. So when he was speaking, when that person was speaking, he said that one of his vision is to have students, as the peace ambassadors, to have international students as peace ambassadors. So that way, when we have international students and faculty in the campuses, they are the ambassadors and they bring not only teaching learning experience they enrich, they also are our cultural ambassadors. So that's one thing good that will be happening. I hope this relationship further flourishes and have more such occasions of holding these joint conferences also. And the next one is also that regarding the natural disasters. I'm being a geologist or a geoscientist. The natural disasters have certain interest to us in a different context. Mostly, the geoscientists get excited when we have a lot of earthquakes, big earthquake takes place. Then we all feel, okay, it's a tragedy. Many people may lose life, but it also provides opportunity to understand the earth interiors. Because interior of the earth, except for few, 100 or 1,000 meters, we do not know much about what is inside the earth. But this earthquake provides us that opportunity to learn, understand what is inside. Okay. So like that, this COVID, I would say that ever since this COVID natural disaster struck, we are also either in a family or in a small society or as a campus, if we take it as a unit, or a society at large, or country level, or international level, we will try to now, all our relationships are tested. Now we are trying to see whether our unit of any unit you can consider, either family or as a bigger society or a country or whatever region, the relationships between these units are tested now. It is a testing time. So we are able to see several socio-political and economic, bonding taking place. At the same time, divisions or chasms are also appearing. So it's a rather very interesting time, for all aspects, either it is a sociologist or economist or political scientist or a manager, or business person. It is really a challenging time to find out how things are getting reorganized, and priorities of persons are also changed already, and it will be changing. So this is the reality. Understanding such changes require in-depth research, and also a more qualitative as well as quantitative aspect need to be looked into to properly understand these changes. So this is one aspect. Second aspect which I would like to also say is that, so amongst our friends, relatives and colleagues, we had several people who were affected by COVID-19 in the last 6 or 7, 8 months, you can say. Okay. So what I find is that some of the people who had COVID, who suffered COVID, they recovered, and it was for them, it was almost just like a viral fever. They had this COVID, after a week, they became all right. They could even come back to work normally. Whereas there are others, who were hospitalized, who spent weeks, not months, in a hospital, particularly several weeks in intensive care unit. And then when they come back also after they are discharged and they are back at home, even then they are having a lot of problems, complications, lot of problems. Why I'm telling this is a natural model. This COVID and its effect on people is a natural model, which is going to be also for business. Certain segments of business is going to recover fast, but some other segments of business will not be recovered. Like we have mortality rates, like after COVID, some people died also. Like that, some businesses may not recover at all. It may be the end of that business. For some businesses, it may take long time, for recovery. Like for example, if you take tourism and travel industry, it will recover. It's going to take economists and various other people to predict, because one of the important function in business is to understand what will happen after a month, after 6 months, after a year. Then only we can, gear up whatever is required, as my understanding, or as my little understanding of economy or business goes. You are better experts in this regard. I don't have to tell. So it's going to be a very interesting time, very testing time, interesting as well as testing time for all of us, and particularly for business more so. So I hope all the experts and the professors of business management will have a really good opportunity to interact and also study in collaboration with the various countries to better understand all these aspects. Okay, so with this, I thank all of you for listening to me patiently. I may not have told anything very, what we can say. To the topic of your seminar, more in an expert way, but this is my overall, I can say, as a layman in the field, I can tell this much. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now introduce Professor Christophe Thors, who is the Director of IAE Gustave Eiffel School of Management, University of East Paris. Having obtained his PhD from Dauphine University in Paris, he was awarded the first prize for the French National Full University Professor Admission Examination in Management Science. His area of expertise is strategic management and economic intelligence, and his research work focuses specifically on behavioral perspectives in strategy. Professor has published numerous articles in peer-reviewed journals, multiple chapters in academic publications, articles in professional journals, 2 teaching manuals, and delivered several invitees talks at premium national and international conferences. Professor was an elected board member at the National Council of Universities in France. We are very honored to have you with us, sir. And now I invite you to deliver the valedictory address of this conference.
Thank you. Dear students, dear colleagues, first, let me tell how happy and proud I am to be here with all of you. I have been very impressed by the quality of the debates and the stimulating ideas which were presented and discussed during this conference. As a management scholar, and more specifically as a strategy scholar, I would say, like Professor Balakrishnan, that COVID can also be seen as an opportunity. This is not to be voluntarily sarcastic or provocative. I know the losses, the terrible economic consequences, the potential for destabilization in many countries and political systems. I know all the tremendous efforts that have been made by hospitals, schools, public actors, but also little firms, shop owners, multinational firms, everyone and everywhere. Nevertheless, COVID can be seen in some aspects as an opportunity to think differently our world, to think differently economy, and to think differently management and strategy. Can we have a strategy in front of such hurricanes? Can we create models that really help to deal with the unexpected? During decades, management scholars tried to put organizations in a bottle. They tried to understand which forces could explain the structure of competitive areas. They tried to define the way environmental and internal characteristics could determine the performance of organizations. They tried to draw the optimal firm within different contexts. All of these works are of great interest and impact on organizations and economy. We teach the results of these researches. They are used by consulting firms and top management teams. They contribute to our vision of our world. We reduce complexity with SWOT analysis. We think the management of our organizations, sometimes of our lives, with these models and representations of reality. But shouldn't we accept not to be sure? The worldwide crisis we have been facing for a year now shows that despite computing capabilities, organized political systems, top-level managers and decision makers, we collectively cannot always be prepared to the unpredictable. COVID-19 is not such a surprise. It is not something that has not been thought or anticipated. It is a situation that was statistically not certain enough to be encountered by our political and economic systems. Many people knew this could happen, but more people thought that it was not certain enough to spend resources on a possibility. We know now that we could not predict this worldwide crisis, and we have to think about it as scholars and particularly as management scholars. Is our duty to teach how things have to be done, or is it to prepare our students to face the unpredictable? I think this engages us to think differently the way we teach management. Management is not the addition of tools and processes. Management is about people acting together for a collective purpose. And people are not always predictable, as disease or technological revolutions or social movements. A good manager must be someone who can deal with uncertainty, who accepts unpredictability. As public management schools, we have to think about the way we can help our students and economic partners to deal with uncertainty, ambiguity, volatility. It probably means working on behavioral skills, openness, and hope. Management can be hopeful. It can change things. At Eiffel School of Management, we believe that things are not written, that students can change their life, their destiny, their relation to the world, and the world itself. We aim at making them more skilled, of course, but also more confident, more open, more concerned with the consequences of their decisions and actions. We try to teach them hope. I have never been to India, but from here, from Paris, India is a country of hope, with talented young people, technological expertise, a tradition of openness, a vision of tomorrow's world. Pondicherry University and the University of East Paris share public values and a real concern about tomorrow's world. I am very happy that we can make this partnership live with this online conference, with students' exchanges, with academic and scientific link. I think this crisis can be an opportunity to think differently our world, our teaching. And I am confident that the Department of Management Studies of Pondicherry University and Eiffel School of Management are ready for that. Thank you.
Sure, Professor.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Eric Hessler, Vice Dean, International Relations, Faculty of Economics and Management, UPEC, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Eric, would you please unmute your audio? Thank you, Eric. Eric is connecting through another device, so kindly hold on.
Yes.
May I use these few seconds to make an announcement? At the end of Word of Thanks, we would love to take a digital virtual group picture. So at that time, we will invite every one of you to keep your videos on, and probably we can give a nice thumbs up. Oh, Eric, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a wonderful 2 days of conference. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Vice Chancellor Goudsmit, for his presidential address. He talked about the friendship between France and India, which I'm fully convinced brings so much value to the world. Like Professor Banerjee and Esther Duflo, who won last year the prize in economic science in memory of Alfred Nobel together with Professor Kemmer, for the experimental approach to alleviating global poverty. I'd like also to thank President Jean-Luc Dubois-Randé, our president of the University of East Paris, who supported our event with his inaugural address. I also like to thank Professor Swamy, the former dean of the School of Management, Professor Laurent Thévenet, and Odile Solnik, who made this agreement possible 2 years ago. All my thanks are also for Professor Chandra Sekhar Rao, the conference chair, the dean of the School of Management, Professor Uma Chandra Sekharan, the international relations, Professor Emmanuel Polonowski, our dean of Faculty of Economics and Management, who allowed me to use his office today to have a better connection. I'd like to thank our director, Professor Christophe Torset, for this very talented and brilliant intervention today. I'd like also to thank our administrative staff, Joanna, Armel, Carole, Myrti, Laetitia, and Vivian, and all the Indian administrative and technical staff who made this event possible. Also, I would like to give a special thanks to Professor Charumati, the conference convener, the head and the Department of Management Studies, Professor Balakrishan, the Director of Studies of Pondicherry, and all the faculty of AU School of Management. A very warm and special thank for Victor Andakumar, the conference coordinator. It's been a very nice journey with you. Everything went so smooth, and it was a great pleasure to bring all together all those speakers during those 2 days. I'd like to thank the keynote speakers from today, Dr. Bat Noor, and this very inspiring woman, your alumni, Dr. Yuma. I'd like to give also a special thanks to the panels of yesterday's and today, and a special thanks to my two colleagues, Professor Sylvie Chevrier and Professor Anouk Murjeki, who are working with me in our Eiffel School of Management. I'd like to thank the report and very concise and very nice report from Ms. Lipoka Maya, the doctoral research scholar. And finally, a special thanks to the Trailblazers students. The two young women, Arti, who came 2 years ago to a school as a degree-seeking student, and Anvesha, but also Pradek and Abhishek, who I had the pleasure to have in my classes in business communication. I'd like to thank today Surya and all the students who attended those 2 days, and I hope they learn a few things, and I'm sure they have a lot of food for thought, and I hope we can continue the discussion. This online conference is a great way to show how the Indian-French collaboration is a booster for multilateral cooperation to address altogether this global crisis. Thank you. Namaste, merci, and this is just the beginning.
Thank you, everyone. On behalf of the Department of Management Studies, Pondicherry University. Shall we take group photo? Yeah.
Request you all to please turn on your videos. This is going to be a beautiful picture, and we'll all give a thumbs up. I'm just waiting for a few more people to turn on their videos, and then we will give 10 seconds to our tech support team. Participants, will you please turn on your videos? We are waiting for you to do that. Thank you. So many of you have responded. There are a few more. Would you kindly turn on your videos, please? The maximum is 49 tiles in Google Meet. I don't know who are these 49 lucky ones in this digital group picture. Wow, what a scene this is.
How many heads are now visible?
A few more, if I may call the name.
Manu.
Shakil, Ajay, Uma, would you please turn on your videos? Would really appreciate if you could do that just for 10 seconds, and then we are done. Oh, okay. I think we can do a nice thumbs up if that you're comfortable with that. Tech support team, your 10 seconds starts now. Great. Thank you so much for your cooperation. I'm indeed very grateful to my head of the department, the dean of the school where I teach, and also the dean international relations and the director. So as the conference coordinator on this side, it's been an amazing experience, to benefit from their guidance, from their timely interventions. Thank you so much. And Eric, it was such a pleasure working with you. As you said, there is more to come, and we will keep raising the bar and aim for bigger things. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, panelists. Thank you, keynote speakers. Thank you, colleagues. I just feel so overwhelmed at this moment. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, our students, especially. They were all the way they were attending. In fact, 248 plus students joined, and we could not allow more students, first year students, second year students, scholars, and students from Paris also joined, and different countries joined. So I thank all the participant delegates for making this international conference a big success. Thank you, and DMS will always be on its mood to organize more such events. We look forward to your cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, tech support team. You did a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Yes, they did. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the students. Without them, we wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We hope
Thank you.
to be able to host your students here in Pondicherry.
Yes, and thank you for your trust.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can we leave the meeting, Victor?
Yeah.
Good night. Good night, everybody. It was